Well, it's Dr. Keith Gaddie. It's, you know, every time that there's something going on, it's like, call Gaddie. I know colleges do that all over the country. It's good to see you, Dr. Gaddie.
Well, it's good to be with
you,
Scott.
New book, by the way, U.S. Supreme Court's Democratic Spaces. And I'm wondering, and I'll tell you how to get this in just a moment, but how does one of Oklahoma's best-known political scientists and authors around this country wind up doing architecture?
Well, about 17 years ago, I got interested in public space, and one of the things about architecture is it's dynamic. It's about changing human behavior. That's politics. And the built environment, the beauty of it, the meaning of it, how it affects people, but also practically how it structures our behavior has always fascinated me. So I started writing in this area about 10 years ago, and my co-author and I just produced this new book at University of Oklahoma Press.
You get this at Full Circle and get it on Amazon. It's called U.S. Supreme Court's Democratic Spaces. It's a great book. You're going to read it. We'll put it in the description a little bit later.
Thanks, sir.
One of the projects you're doing is you've done some renderings with architecture class about what might have happened at the Oklahoma County Jail, the detention center, which we've been doing a lot of Mitchell talks on this. It's of prime interest when you're talking about justice reform. Tell me what you guys were doing down there and how this impacts us in the future.
Well, in brief, about 3 years ago, Ed Kelly over at the J School got with my colleague Marjorie Callahan, who's a noted architect from Edmond and a member of the architecture faculty at OU, to get involved in this carceral studies project about reimagining incarceration and trying to reform it. So Marjorie and I paired together to teach a fifth-year design studio in architecture. We had 17 senior architecture students, and we showed them a big model of the old jail, that scandalous old jail, and said, can we do this better? Can we do it in an environmentally friendly manner? Can we do a thing that satisfies the public's need for security with the need for a jail to function the way it's supposed to and also be humane? And so they looked into everything from how you shape the space to what your lighting sources are, to the materials you use, to how you generate energy, to actually being able to do things like grow food, maybe even sell from the jail, to create an incarceration system for people that are either transitioning through or for people who will be there for the longer term, so you make something more positive.
So right now, and I actually took a tour recently where I went through and saw where they're retrofitting. Some of that's being done and done well, except now they're talking about a new jail, so that doesn't get into the programming. But does architecture influence how people are treated in these facilities?
Absolutely, because the way you shape the space is going to dictate how people are treated. The more light you let into a space, the better materials you use that cut down on tinniness and loud noises, the more calm that population is going to be. We've got good science on that. How you set up the spaces to flow impacts how people behave. Here's a simple one that my students ran down on. You don't want to make a door of one cell face a door in another cell because it creates tension between the people that are housed in those two cells. It creates animosity. So how you shape the space, how people are angled towards each other, how you move them around has a big impact on the experience. How you create a space for visitors to come in and visit with a family member who's being detained in that jail has a big influence on that experience. The idea is if somebody has been, let's remember what jails do. They exist for short-term incarceration if somebody has processed to go through their due process, right? Determination of guilt. Some people are detained because they can't make bail for the long term. Others are processed in, processed out. Then you've got people that are in transition who have already been sentenced. And we have to think about how the experiences of each of these types of people and how to cut down on conflict, but also try and build a little bit better person coming out. Space dictates how you do that.
Dr. Keith Gaddie, Happy New Year
to you, sir. Scott Mitchell. Pleasure.
Get this book at Amazon and Full Circle, all the places. See this again at news9.com/Your Vote Counts and follow me on Twitter @MitchellTalks.